Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today is a very special episode of Splat from the Past. I am interviewing one of Dean Martin's Golddiggers from his old variety show from the 60s and 70s. Her name is Francie Mendenhall. If you recognize the name Mendenhall, she is the older sister of David Mendenhall, who played Sylvester Stallone's son in Over the Top, and he was in a bunch of other movies. Now he does voiceover stuff for comic book cartoons and what have you. And I'm having Francie on the show today to talk about her gold digging years, and also talk about she's done a production of Hello, Dolly on Broadway. She was on an episode of Canon, and she's done a couple other things. And I'd like to ask her about all of that. And it's a pretty good show, it seems like, today, because I've got so much versatility on this show. Actors, comedians, occasionally a fellow podcaster, occasionally a porn star, just different types of people that I have on this show, and I'm so lucky with the versatility of this show, and I'm very grateful for it. So yeah, here is my interview with Francie Mendenhall.
Hello?
Hi, Francie. How are you?
I'm fine. May I say who's calling?
Tommy.
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
I am spectacular. It's such an honor. Thank you for taking the time today.
Oh, you're welcome. So I don't get asked for interviews that often at this point. So
that is criminal. Okay. That is very criminal. They don't ask you.
Well, every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think you're a writer, and
I screenwrite. I do a little acting, stand-up comedy, a bunch of things.
Mm-hmm. Well, neat. Well, shoot. What do you want to ask me?
So, going back in time, your father, James Mendenhall, had a theater company in Texas, and I was reading that you were acting there early on.
Yes. Yeah, luckily I didn't embarrass anybody, but I was just born in a trunk, basically, and my brother and I both started, I was like 7 and he was like 9 and a half. Started doing shows, children's shows, and then it developed into general fare for families, and then singing got involved, and we were both singers, my brother and I. Mm-hmm. And one summer he let my dad let us run the theater. Like my brother would run the lights, I would do the props, I would clean the front of the house, the bathrooms, the dressing rooms, and sell tickets at the box office. It was a great education because the theater is, it's all one thing.
Yeah.
You have to be invested in the whole project. The minute they walk in the door, that's when the experience begins. So anyway, that was lovely, and I kept doing theater, and then my parents split up, and my dad moved to New York, and my brother and I, Mendy, not David, went up to a summer stock company that he'd started, and that was lots of fun, and did a few shows up there, mostly helped out. I was 12, and then I went to New York City with my dad after the summer and spent several months, and ended up going home to Mama, but I did work on the Patty Duke show, which was really thrilling, and learned how to use chopsticks. So I came back to Houston, and the lady that took my father's theater over was my greatest mentor ever, Marietta Merrick, and David knew her, and all her family. And so grew up here just doing shows, and I was really blessed. I did a lot of leads. I did, a lot of understudy work at first for the leading roles, and then I graduated into owning it. So, and then the Golddiggers came along, and, well, there was a court club, too. I sang at the court club when I was 17, opening for Peter Herkos, the psychic, mentalist. And so I did a few singing things around that age, 17, 18, 19. And then the Dean Martin people came to town, and there was a little blurb in the paper, and Marietta's husband, Bob, called me and said, you've got to go do this. This is a chance. So, and Patsy Swayze, Patrick Swayze's mother, wonderful teacher and wonderful human. The auditions were at her studio. And so, I don't know, there were a bunch of us, and Lee Hale, Janet Ty, Jonathan Lucas, they were all sitting there. And, first we did a little movement. My pirouette sort of just wandered off into the hallway. I don't know how well I did there, but I sang well. They liked me. And they said, you like to travel? I went, yes. So that was that. It was going to be just, come to L.A. and we'll see if you like it, if we like it, Yeah. But that was it. So then they flew me and another girl from Houston into Burbank, and my cat is killing me. Wait a minute. Okay. She's so jealous. So I don't know how much you want to know about the Golddigger experience, or if you want to move on to something else.
I got plenty of questions.
Okay. All right.
But I was curious, though. I mean, are you classically trained in singing and dancing?
I'm classically trained in dancing. Singing was just a gift, and I did have some singing lessons, but I literally learned by doing, and I'm not suggesting that for everyone.
Yeah.
That's how it happened for me, and I've certainly gotten a lot of help along the way when I needed it, and so, yeah. I'm classically trained. I mean, I would categorize myself as an actress-singer or singer-actress who moves well. That's what they call it. I'm not a ballet dancer. I'm not a prima ballerina. I'm a musical theater dancer, and everything we did in the Golddiggers was just fine. So I'd work with Patsy Swayze, who was one of the most wonderful choreographers ever, anywhere. So I was trained well, but I would be limited. I move well. I can fool you just thinking I'm a dancer.
Yeah. So a lot of people may not remember this, but the Golddiggers was a show that was a summer replacement for the Dean Martin show when it was on hiatus, correct?
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, that started like the year before I joined. That was, I believe, 1969.
You joined in 1970?
I joined in 1970.
Was Susie Ewing still there?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, we're good buds.
Yeah, she went on to a very successful career after that.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, I have a friend who interviewed her on his podcast a few years ago, said she was quite lovely, and she sure did come off that way when I was listening to it.
Oh, she is. And she's extremely talented, and she was our captain, a dance captain. And you couldn't ask for anyone better to lead the group. Yeah. She was quite a professional herself, still is, of course, and just terrific entertainer and human. And has a beautiful son, Blake, who's done quite well.
What was Dean like?
Well, he was, it was a professional setting. He did not rehearse during the week, as everyone knows. So there would be a stand-in for him. He was a gentleman. He went right to the work, and he was very kind. I know the very first time I was on television with him, we were doing Welcome to My World, and they placed me right behind him, like leaning with my arm out a little bit. And we did the pre-records before, all the harmonies and everything had already been created ahead of time. But I didn't know about what you're supposed to do after that. So brilliant me at 19 thinks, I think I'll sing because it'll look more natural. You'll see my vocal cords,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm singing away. Everybody's lip syncing and I'm singing. And, Mr. Martin raises his hand. Everything stops. So we're all sitting around going, well, okay, let's see what it is. Finally, the director comes up behind me and says, Francie, don't sing. I'm like, oh, no. It was all because of me. And Dean Martin puts his thumb back and says, new girl. I went, yeah. I wanted to die.
New girl.
But he was very kind because I was singing right into his microphone. So it was him and then this odd harmony part being thrown into his microphone. I didn't know about that. Never did that again.
I can just imagine how embarrassing that would be. I've always heard that Dean Martin was a great guy. And
yeah, very nice.
I saw him do an interview one time where he said that, he didn't like going to rehearsals, but he cheated by they would give him tapes of rehearsals, so he knew the whole program by the time the week was over, and and taping was about to commence,
Yeah, and there, some people would go to his house and work on, his solos and stuff.
Yeah, I remember.
He was very nice, very nice.
Yeah, I remember.
And gorgeous.
Oh, yeah. A beautiful singing voice. I think he had, as much as I love Frank Sinatra, I think that he had a better voice than Sinatra.
Yes, wonderful.
Did you ever meet Sinatra?
Well, sort of. Again, one of the first shows I did, we were doing pre-record in a little booth, and so down comes Frank Sinatra and Lee Hale, the musical director, and walks right by us as we're working, and I'm just like, jaw on the floor. Mm. We were in the same number together, but I don't know. Everybody's got a little song, and so it's Ruth Buzzy and Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and a slew of others. So I was in his airspace, let me put it that way.
Nice.
I did meet one of his lovely daughters last year, Nancy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, not Nancy. I'm sorry.
Tina?
Oh, dear. Yeah, Tina.
Tina Sinatra, yeah. Wow, that is amazing. You guys had a lot of great guest stars, too. Any stories stand out about guest stars?
Oh, my. Well, I did about 4 Dean Martin shows before we had our own show.
Mm-hmm.
And about the Martin show, the people I worked with were just so kind. Ruth Buzzy's a wonderful human. Actors and performers can be difficult. And you never know if they're going to just shove right by this young little thing, I don't think a lot of people realize how much training each one of us had individually, but Ruth Buzzy was a doll. Dom DeLuise was just so nice. Mm. All the creative people were so nice, and Lee Hale especially, who we just lost a few months ago, was the most wonderful, kind, talented musical director. He produced our show and our album, and he was so supportive of me personally.
Mm-hmm.
He was just wonderful. But our show, oh my gosh, we taped 3.5 shows a week. because that was our schedule. 3.5 half-hour shows a week. Mm-hmm. So even at that young age, it was pretty tough. But everyone was great. Charles Nelson Riley, so funny and so kind. Oh gosh, Vincent Price was on our show.
Oh.
Carol Burnett loved to make fun of the fact that we had Vincent Price on our show, and she did a parody on that number on her show. I didn't think it was too funny at the time, but it was pretty cute. Oh my gosh. Name it.
Barbara Heller.
Oh, she was wonderful. So gifted.
Yeah.
She was one of the funniest people I think I've ever encountered. And also so kind. I mean, I keep expressing that word because in the business, it's not really thought of as part of the equation, but when you really are working in that environment,
mm-hmm.
people want to work with people that they get along with.
Oh, of course.
You know, you've already run the gauntlet. You've already been vetted. They know you can do the stuff, but now they have to work with you and be with you day in and day out. So it matters a lot.
It sure does. It sure does.
Yeah.
Paul Lynde, would he be on there?
Oh, yes. What a hoot. What a hoot. You know, as far as like hanging out time, we didn't really, it was just really get to the work. But certainly, you know, when we were doing our sketches, I mean, it was just so entertaining. He's so funny.
Yeah. The other day, somebody posted on Facebook Q&A one-liners that Paul Lynde did on Hollywood Squares back in the 70s. Oh, my God, the stuff he got away with. I couldn't believe it.
Unbelievable. Yeah. And Alice Ghostley was one of his best buddies. I know. I don't know if she was on that show or not.
Yeah.
Years later, I did a show with Kay Ballard, and Alice Ghostley and Paul Lynde came to see her, and I got to visit with them backstage more. That was fun.
Yeah, he was just hilarious. I mean, to get away with saying something like, you know, what's the currency of Puerto Rico? And he said, food stamps. That's so bad.
So inappropriate.
Yeah.
Hysterical. And with that sneer that he was so good at.
Yeah.
Food stamps.
And Greg Garrison directed?
Oh, yeah. He did.
Yeah.
It was scary. He was very good at what he did, and I like to think he hired very well. But, you know, sometimes when he wasn't on the set, I did my best work. It kind of intimidated me, but yeah.
Yeah, that was just an amazing time, and it's such a different world now. It was so much more innocent back then.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, it was. A variety television alone, you know, belongs in the age of innocence.
Yeah. My mom, she almost became a gold digger dancer. In 1972, she graduated high school, and she had a scholarship to UCLA. And part of that scholarship was also an audition for Dean Martin to be a gold digger dancer. And my grandmother was very domineering, very jealous, and she did not let my mom go, unfortunately.
Oh.
Yeah.
Boy. Stories like that. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Well, I hope she is still having a happy, fulfilled life.
She's had a very difficult life, but she tells me every day the best thing she ever did was give birth to me.
I mean,
you know?
I don't have children, so I would take that deeply to heart.
I do every day.
Aw.
So after the Golddiggers, you did Hello, Dolly on Broadway.
I did.
Uh-huh.
I did. I auditioned again in Los Angeles. They'd already been on the road for a while. And I got picked up in Los Angeles, and then we went to San Diego, and then our tour began. We went to Boston, Washington, D.C. Actually, we ended up there. So we were on Broadway for a while. It was like a couple of months at the Scoff Theater, but it was so thrilling. That's my dream.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine being that young and just, everything you would always hope for to be on Broadway, it comes true, and it's very nerve-wracking, too.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, once you rehearse a show and you do it night after night and matinee after matinee, you get pretty used to it. But the travel and keeping healthy, as I'm coughing, keeping healthy, and doing your best every night.
Your father must have been proud of you.
He was, and my mom was proud. He's a sweetheart. Dad was very talented, a very interesting man who went from broadcasting to acting to directing to producing, and he did quite a lot, even before he came to Houston. Or we came to Houston. And then he and his second wife met in New York and moved to L.A., and here comes David Mendenhall.
Yes, indeed. Your brother was a pretty successful child actor for a while there in the 80s.
Oh, yes. Remarkably well. And he's, I don't think he's retired from it at all, but he's an attorney for professional actors and theatrical.
Oh, I didn't even realize that. I did know that he had done some voiceover work in recent years.
Well, I don't know if he wants that broadcast, but he does. He does write for a legal paper.
Nice.
And he continues to pursue his creative end.
There's a couple child stars from his generation that became lawyers later, I noticed. But
yeah, well, those Joey and like three brothers. They used to hang out together.
Joey.
Sorry. Oh, they were three cute little blonde kids. Anyway, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
I'm just a font of information.
It's okay. They want to hear me, they want to hear you, not me.
Okay.
So what was it like working? What was it like working with Pearl Bailey on Hello, Dolly?
Well, luckily she had seen me before with the Golddiggers as a soloist, so she already had some degree of, I don't really want to use the word respect, but she thought I was okay.
Oh.
And so she was very kind to me. She was tough. She was really tough. But she was wonderful in that role. And she was very kind to me. She's pretty tough on the rest of the crew sometimes. Don't really know. Very complicated lady.
But she was very amazing, though.
Oh, very. Kind of magical.
Yeah.
Really.
And I also oh, go ahead.
After the show every night, we would remain on stage, and she called us her flower garden. So there were people from all cultures and ethnicities in the show, and she would ask one of the cast members to do a little dance or something, and then she would sing, "I'll Be Seeing You," and it was wonderful.
Oh.
Wonderful.
Oh. And I also noticed Chip Fields was in it.
Yes, and what a nice lady. Oh, I just really liked her. She was so friendly and so sweet. and so talented. She was terrific. It was like a she was adorable before her daughter was born.
Before she became Tootie on The Facts of Life, yeah. Yeah. You were also on an episode of Canon.
Yes, I was.
What was that like?
Well, it happened at the last minute. Somebody, I don't know, couldn't show up. They called me. They said, "Is your hair clean? Can you get over there?"
Mm-hmm.
So I did it, and it was a nice afternoon. I think I met one of the actresses in the show in that episode, and it was nice. No big thrills. One of the biggest thrills so far is going with Bob Hope on the USO tour in 1970.
Wow.
That was about the biggest eye-opener I'd had in my life at that time. And again, such a kind man.
Mm-hmm.
And we would see him for different reasons through years. White House press dinner. I saw him around, Sacramento, when I did Sacramento Music Circus. He was up there. And I'm all the way back in Houston doing Best Little Whorehouse in Texas in 1979. Backstage, putting on my makeup. Stage manager says, "Francie, Bob Hope is on the payphone." Of course, all the girls are looking at me like, "What?" I couldn't friggin' believe it. He called me just to say that he was in town playing golf with President Ford, and sorry he wouldn't have a chance to see the show, but wished me all the best. It's just such a kind thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he was wonderful on the tour. He was very easy to talk to, and you never felt like you had to behave a certain way because you were around Bob Hope. He was just really wonderful.
Oh, that's great.
I asked I don't know, probably wasn't the pilot because he was flying the plane, but someone in the crew, I said, "Could I please come up and see the Northern Lights when we pass through them?" He said, "Okay, I'll come wake you up." So he did, and we walked back there. As we were walking toward the cockpit, Mr. Hope had a kind of a little bed, with a little curtain. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning, and he was up signing autographs,
mm-hmm.
signing pictures so that he could have them ready for the next base.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
I just can't say how impressed I am with that person.
Mm-hmm. It's one of your favorites.
Absolutely. And Tony Bennett, have to throw him in. Oh, we worked with him several times. He was so much fun and so sweet and so talented, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
You did a production of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane?
I did. Yeah, I wish that had gone on. It just, I don't know. People do not take to the idea at all. It was too campy or something. But I thought it was interesting. Maybe if it had opened in L.A. instead of Houston, it might have had a better shot. Because they had worked on it in London for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And had been writing it and creating it much longer than that. And so it didn't last. It didn't go anywhere after that run, but it was a lot of fun. And Millicent Martin, again, is one of my favorite people.
Mm-hmm.
She said, "Darling, I want you to understudy me." I went, "Okay." Never got to do that. But
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's a classic movie.
Yeah.
I don't
know if you know the career of Millicent Martin and all she's done, but you'll see her in guest starring spots now and again on different things like Grace and Frankie or Frankie and Grace. And
mm-hmm.
Oh, she was the first female lead in 42nd Street on Broadway with Jerry Orbach. Just fantastic. And anyway, she's got quite a career under her belt.
I'll check her out. I have heard her name. But yeah,
she's doing character roles, now. But she's just wow. I was pretty thrilled to be working with her.
Mm-hmm. I see. Recently, you had a part in a movie called Sanitatum.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Is that movie out?
A friend of mine wrote it, directed it, and produced it himself, and is very passionate about the subject. Very difficult to watch, actually, but he did a wonderful job in it, and he asked me if I'd like to do this small role, and I accepted. I wanted to support what he was doing, because it's a real issue.
It's a dark thriller type of movie.
Yeah, with a little romance, believe it or not, thrown in. It's not really a thriller. It's how do you say it? All right, the subject is abuse by parents to their children, and these are the people that are basically pretty well-to-do. Mm-hmm. And so I guess, you wouldn't think that those kind of people would do something like that. But, and the way the film unfolds is the adult survivors, the children that have grown, are seeking revenge on their parents, and it's 4 of them. And it's pretty gruesome. But there is some humor and romance thrown in there somewhere. And I applaud him for doing what he's done. Just a very driven, talented person.
Wow, it sounds like it would be a pretty good movie, though. I'd have to check it out.
Yeah. Get ready. There's some scenes that'll make you hide your eyes.
I can handle almost anything because I know it's just a movie.
Yes.
I was curious. So your dad died very young. What did he die of?
He had brain cancer.
Oh.
Yeah. At 62.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's sad.
That was a big shock. Yeah. So, and it metastasized.
Mm-hmm.
But it was basically the brain. And he had a successful operation, and he lived another 4 years after that. So.
Oh, so it was a while that he had it.
Yeah, it was like 58 when he was diagnosed.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So my dear David and Marissa, I mean, I'm not saying it was easier for me, but they were adolescents.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to be really, really difficult for little kids to lose their father at that age, and his wife. So, but he came here to Houston for treatment, actually, so I got to see him quite a bit. And I went out to L.A. when things were not doing that great. Actually, I moved to L.A. after he recovered from the first surgery, spend more time with him and everybody. Oh.
Wow. I interviewed an actor last year that worked with him and David on They Still Call Me Bruce. And he told me he loved working with them. He said that they were very pleasant.
Yeah. Well, Dad was very charming and funny and supportive and helpful and gifted himself. And, of course, he mentored David and helped him along the way. Mm-hmm.
I was curious, how did he give you such a unique name like Francie?
Well, my grandmother's name was Frances. Mm-hmm. And the only thing I can think of is there's there's a role named Francie that Princess Grace had, and I don't know, it was one of those earlier 50s movies. I'm just guessing. I don't know. Barbie had a best friend named Francie, too. But anyway, I was named after grandmother Frances, only they didn't call me Frances.
Huh.
My birth name is Francie.
Nice. That is a cute little name, I have to say.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, they wanted to name me Wendy, but one of my cousins beat us to it.
Oh.
So they came up with Francie.
Well, it worked out for the best, I think.
Yeah, I like it. Or Chauncey for great-grandfather. I would have thought that would be cool.
Yeah.
Chauncey.
Chauncey, yeah. I knew a girl named Chauncey once.
Really?
Yeah. I believe she was an Aborigine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Chauncey?
Yeah, Chauncey.
Oh. That's exotic.
It was, yeah. She was a very pretty girl, too.
Aw.
So do you have any acting roles that you're going to do next?
Right now, I don't pursue it a lot here in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying never. We may have some Golddigger things coming up. I don't know, or special, or it's been talked about. But actually, I've fallen in love with someone wonderful, and it's been a very long time since I've had a partner, so I'm really hoping that it's the one. At my age, it better be.
I think at your age, anybody is the one, really.
Hey, wait a minute.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with getting older. It's a privilege.
It is. Maturing is what we call it.
Maturing.
And retirement is not a word I like to use. I like to say I'm doing something different.
Doing something different?
I'm changing directions.
Nice. Do you and the Golddiggers ever do signings at the Hollywood show?
Well, I haven't. Some of the girls may have. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can put it out there and ask. I have no idea. I know some of the girls who live there especially will get involved with the Dancers Society and other events going on around town.
Yeah, because the Hollywood show, I mean, they get everybody in show business going back to the 50s that's still alive and kicking, and it's just amazing. They have it every 3 months in Hollywood, and they also do it, I think, in Vegas, too. I mean, it's really, really incredible.
Well, you know what? I'll email Susie today and ask and say that you inquired.
Oh, that would be awesome if you girls got, invited to do that, too.
That would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
We also, the girls have been asked a couple of girls each year asked to go to the Vietnam Veterans Association convention. It's always in a different city. And I haven't been yet, but it's quite a moving experience. I'm really not privy to what they do, but I'm sure they discuss mutual experiences. And we're there because we were in Vietnam with Pop Hope.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Wow, you've had a blessed life, Francine. You really have.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, I have. Just hope this is just one of the acts, that's all.
Yes, it is. One of the acts.
Ruth Gordon, one time on Johnny Carson, answered his question, which was, what is it like getting older? What is it like aging? And she said, honey, whatever you do, don't face the facts. I love that. Don't give me numbers. Just live.
The other day, I talked to the great comedian Tom Dreesen for the second time, and he told me, he said, the first act of his life was very difficult, and the second and third acts have just been wonderful. He says that he thinks that when people have a very difficult first act, it's because God wants them to know what it's like to struggle. So when they get to the second and third acts, it can be nothing but eternal peace.
Yes, I would agree with that. You know, I had really tough teachers, but I'm really glad I did.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because it makes you, it's a work ethic that you learn from fine teachers also.
Yeah. You have to have lots of mentors and teachers. And
yeah,
I haven't had a whole lot of them, but never giving up hope for that.
Never. That's not even near the equation. You can't ever give up.
No.
Hurtful as it is sometimes.
I had a car accident 4 years ago, and I spent 30 days in a coma.
Oh, my heavens.
Yes.
Oh, Tommy, I'm so sorry.
And I never gave up.
Good.
I never gave up. And I started this podcast 2 years later.
You what?
I said I started this podcast 2 years later.
Uh-huh. Wow.
Yeah, it's been an amazing ride for me, and it's going to keep going.
Good. So how are you feeling? I mean, do you have any problems with anything, or?
I got a little, arthritis in my leg from all the metal that's been put in there. I have post-traumatic stress disorder, and the only time I'm ever really happy is when I do this podcast or I'm out and about. I don't like to be at home much, but I feel really good for the most part.
Good. You know, I'm sure you do have that. I'll just say over the years, I developed a general anxiety disorder. Like, what? I'm not depressed. But anyway, sometimes things happen.
Yes, they do. And
but, the only way is up, honey. It's the only way.
Yeah.
And happiness is a choice. I don't care what anybody says. If you're blissful all the time, well, good for you. You're missing a bulb,
Mm-hmm. I do agree with you. Happiness is a choice.
Yeah.
Well, Francie, I thank you so much for coming on today. This was just amazing.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm flattered that you were interested in interviewing me, and I wish you all the very best. And I will pass that on to my Susie.
Oh, yes. Could you also let her know that I sent her a message several months back to interview her?
Yes, I will. Tell me what that's called again, the Hollywood signing?
The Hollywood show.
The Hollywood show. Okay, I sure will. I'll do that today.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Francie, and you have yourself a great day.
You too. Bye now.
Bye now. Well, there you have it. Francie Mendenhall. Ain't she a sweetheart? I think she absolutely is, and she's had an amazing, blessed life, and it keeps on going, because that's all you can do is be strong. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, add me as a friend on Facebook, join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes.